Welcome to the Cleaning Up Business Podcast. My name's Chris Guilfoyle and I'm going to be your host. In every episode, we're hoping to bring you industry leaders from a wide variety of service sectors, disruptors within their industry, and day-to-day entrepreneurs with some business and life lessons for you guys to take away. Let's jump in to today's episode.
From cleaning in London to every service in every home in the UK. That's difficult because you realise that you yourself and everyone around you might not make the whole journey. It's a bit brutal. I have no money, I have no customers, I don't actually have a business model, I don't know if it's going to work. We lost 80% of our clean volume in 10 days.
What's in the future for Housekeep?
You as a founder need to fundamentally understand your business model better than anybody else. And it's like, I'm either getting some sort of award or I'm going to be arrested. What do you know that I can't guess? I didn't actually think we'd be able to survive that.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cleaning Up Business Podcast with me, Chris Guilfoyle. As you can see today, we are not in our standard podcast studio. We have taken the trip up to London because today's guest is very special. We have the founder and CEO of Housekeep.com. Housekeep.com is a tech startup based in the professional cleaning field with a raft of awards, such as Tech Company of the Year at the UK Business Tech Awards, featured in the Financial Times 1000 as one of the fastest growing companies in Europe, Amazon Scale Up Business Award winner at the Scale Up Business of the Year. Housekeep.com founder and CEO is a renowned angel investor, investing in over 50 young and up-and-coming businesses. Named National Scale Up Entrepreneur of the Year at the Great British Entrepreneur Awards and recently named MBE. Today, my guest is Avin Rabheru. Thank you for joining us today, Avin.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
So, we always go back to the start with our guests. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey up until you started and founded Housekeep.com.
Yeah, absolutely. That was quite the introduction. I was like, who's that guy?
Well deserved.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that, but I'll take it. So a bit about me. I born and raised Mancunian. So this means that I'm obviously support the only football club in the northwest of which is Manchester United. Had 25 pretty good years, 10 less good years. My life idol is obviously Sir Alex Ferguson. Made my youth pretty good.
Golden years,
exactly. We'll come on to all his management techniques in a minute, perhaps. So Mancunian, born and raised, and then loved growing up in Manchester. Great place to live and study. Then moved to Oxford for university. Was there for 3 years, studied philosophy, politics and economics, which obviously was because I had a hankering to be prime minister at the time. I've got slightly different ambitions, I think now. Yeah,
no political ambitions now. Then
no, I think they're firmly finished. I think, and of course, and I like to say that like all the prime ministers that we've had who've studied philosophy, politics, economics, I can talk about anything for about a minute, but nothing for more than a minute.
Tough landscape to be in at the moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then moved to London for work. This back in 2004, 2005. Did a little bit of traveling at the time. And, at the time there wasn't, I think things have changed a bit, but if you wanted to work in business or finance, you really had to be in London.
Of course.
You didn't have any choice, really. Did a bit of time in investment banking. So I was at Rothschild, Citigroup. First proper job was in strategy consulting. And then into private equity, so investing in businesses, and then Housekeep. And now live in London, married, 2 little kids, 5-year-old and a 10-month-old. Yeah.
Did you always have a desire to get into sort of that financial side of things?
Certainly business, not necessarily finance. If you sort of see the distinction, I suppose. Everybody. So I'm ethnically Indian. My parents did the hop through Tanzania, through East Africa. Okay. In fact, my grandparents did that hop. My wife's family is also Indian, and her family are all doctors, and my family are all in business of some sort or another. And so growing up, I just assumed that what people did when they were grown-ups was that they ran businesses. It didn't really occur to me that you could be a doctor. Not that I particularly want to be a doctor, but that's what I grew up with. So I just always, it wasn't, yes, I always wanted to do it, but I just thought that's what people did when they grew up.
I suppose that's not being a product of your environment, is it?
Yeah.
If you're around people that are entrepreneur-minded.
Exactly.
that rubs up on yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So fast forward, you've obviously founded a tech startup around 2014, I believe, housekeep.com. Obviously, with your background and the professional cleaning field, which is what I grew up in.
Yeah.
Now, my journey into it was a slightly different route to yours. I wasn't academically minded, not through lack of capability, more just poor choice, if I'm honest. And I sort of fell into the industry. But what attracted you to the professional cleaning field?
So there's probably two sort of parts to the question. So as I got a bit more experience, I kind of realized that I sort of started to understand that I wanted to start a business. I didn't really think of myself as wanting to be an entrepreneur or a tech founder or all these buzzwords. I just wanted to start a business and run it, and grow it. And so that was sort of part one. Why cleaning was, I'd been an investor for about 8 years at this point. I'd seen lots of young growing businesses, and I kind of felt like I wanted to go to the other side of the table and run something myself. And I sort of sat down and said, okay, what industries look attractive? Where do I think there's an opportunity? And I was kind of looking for 3 rough attributes: big existing market for something, fragmented supply base, so small subscale suppliers, which is very much true in domestic, less true in commercial cleaning. And the scope to do it better, probably through technology. And I was really starting with a pretty blank sheet of paper. And I started to look for businesses for sale because I thought, look, I don't
want to go for
I've got some nice academic things, but I've not actually done anything with my own hands, right? And it's probably, you need a bit of both, right, for us to run successful businesses. And so I thought if I could buy something and use that as a platform and I could kind of figure out how it works, I could buy another one and bolt it on. And, I was thinking about in that framework, I was thinking about what Pret did for sandwich stores. There were a lot of sandwich stores. They were fragmented, mom and pop shop owned. Pret standardized and improved sandwich shops. And the thing I like about Pret, by the way, is it took them 4 years to open their second store. It took Walmart 7 years to open their second store. They got the model right and then they accelerated. And I was looking at business for sale. There are all these small domestic cleaning companies, but also electricians, plumbers, businesses around the place, small but profitable. But there was nothing to buy. You'd be buying 20 cleaners who have a strong relationship with the business owner, quite literally a bucket in a car. There's nothing to purchase. And that got me interested in the market. I started looking at it more. And if I'm honest, I put one foot in front of the other on repeat, and now I'm here. So there was no, it was a kind of, hey, this looks interesting. And I just kept going forwards, I suppose.
Obviously, as I say, most people would approach that with, either looking at starting from ground up and sort of, but then they get caught in the trap of actually being in the business all the time. And that's like, you've obviously done that at a high level. How did you go about that? Was there a capital raising phase with that to start?
Yeah. So, day one, I did the first 100 cleans, and that was deliberate. Really? I wanted to understand. Because I understood that customers want the house cleaned. Mm-hmm. It's not conceptually very difficult to understand. And that they want it done at a high level. But I just didn't understand what service looks like. I understood the customer proposition. It's not hard to imagine that it would be nice to book a cleaner online and they show up and they do a good job and I pay automatically. That's easy for anyone to figure out. I had no idea about cleaning or cleaners. I'm a bit of a clean freak as a aside, but that's not particularly relevant, but it's just coincidental perhaps. And so I went and did a lot of the cleaning, and then I tried to get a cleaner, and I was like, okay, can I now get a cleaner to do cleaning to a high standard? Then I was like, can I get 2 cleaners to do it to a high standard? And so I really try to immerse myself on the supply side. And my firm belief is the customer side of this is kind of obvious and straightforward. The magic is the customers stay if the cleaners are good. So how do you get good cleaners? What do cleaners care about? How do you put more money in their pockets than anybody else? And so I was very deeply in the business in the early days. And myself and our head of ops, if for some reason a cleaner didn't go to a job, we'd go and fulfill the job up ourselves.
Did you enjoy that side of things, Avin? Or not really?
Enjoys a
probably
word
I
take
right?
great except I really struggle with, right? So I didn't enjoy it at the time, right? I didn't want to go and clean somebody's house because I was like, this is never going to scale. I don't mind cleaning, by the way. I quite like cleaning, but I understood that fundamentally I can't build a big business if I'm doing the cleaning. There's a limit to how many cleans I can do per day.
Spot on.
But I look back at it, and I really look back at it somewhat romantically, but also like I got so much good experience around that. I can still tell you there are some blocks in SE1 where there's no phone reception as a consequence, And I know some of the real operating problems on the ground. And so I wouldn't, enjoy is a word I'm struggling to say yes to, but was it a valuable exercise that I'm glad that I did? Yes. But at the time, you're filled with what next? How do I make it bigger? How do I grow it? How do I get to the next stage? So in retrospect, I enjoyed it. I didn't at the time. I was worried about what's next. If that's
it's always good, I suppose, to see a business at the ground level, even if you're coming in as a founder CEO, just to understand it operationally and make sure. I think that's a must. But like you say, a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this myself, even though I'm slightly more hands off for our business now. If you get dragged into that operation, you have a tendency to stay there or get dragged back in and out of it, which is not a great space to be in. If you're obviously wanting to scale. So from the early days, how did you then subsequently scale that up with multiple cleaning operatives?
Yeah, so capital, raised some money, that certainly helped. And
what was that process like? Was that relationships you had previously was helpful there?
Yeah, it was. So after the sort of consulting piece, I moved to a private equity firm called Smedley Capital. We managed about £500 million. We invested that in sort of tranches of 5 to 15 million, roughly, in young growing businesses. So everybody I knew was either an investor, they were an entrepreneur. So my network was people who do this, and that was really helpful. And so the process was much easier for me personally at that point. But I think there are some things that are common about anybody that was fundraising. I went and thought about, I guess I went and got, I rather than trying to raise money, I said, hey, I'm doing these interesting things. Can I get some kind of criticism? Can I get feedback on how to do it better or what the pitfalls might be? And people were kind of like, hey, you've figured out a lot of stuff already. How have you got this far? Just doing some cleaning on your own in a corner with a few slides. And so the kind of concept of you as a founder need to fundamentally understand your business model better than anybody else. I think that's repeatable for anybody else raising capital. And slight digression here, but I think there are basically two types of successful founder. The first tend to be industry experts. So they're the annoying people in the organization who are always complaining about the way we do things. You're in some deep part of legal services and they're like, oh, the way we do this is really bad. And they're really annoying people. They're always pissing everybody off, right? But they're like deep industry experts. And that's how they find opportunity. Often there's a regulatory change or there's a way something works that means you can do it differently, or a technological change. And they're the guys that spot it. And the other type of founder are people like me. Like, I just like solving business problems. And I'd kind of be mildly interested in running a fish and chip shop. I'd be quite interested in running a sandwich shop. I'd be, pretty interested in running any business of any type. And in the domestic cleaning world, different in commercial again, I think, there just aren't any people like me. There tend to be cleaners done good who have expanded their business pretty organically and hit a ceiling of 20 to 40 cleaners, as much as a person can manage with a mobile phone and a spreadsheet. And so this industry is open for someone like me who could be running a fish and chip shop instead. It's got those sort of dynamics.
I suppose, do you think that's down? No one's stepped on that ground before like you have now with Housekeep.com because of the perception of the industry in terms of, some of relatively low barrier to market for most people. It's not glamorous. Most people don't see it as glamorous. Key industry, but not, people, I personally don't think value it enough. Do you think that was a helpful aspect?
I'm sure that's part of it. Why run a cleaning company if you can run a luxury fashion business, right? It's a lot
more salubrious.
It would be somewhat cooler, I suppose. I guess that never really, I just never cared about that kind of thing. I cared about the business dynamics, not the look.
Sure. So you're obviously scaling up now. When you go through because I'm still relatively young in my entrepreneur journey, is that I think I've heard you say, obviously, researching about yourself before we come here today, about different stages of a business in terms of the team that you might necessarily start with to, begin the business, the founding stage and that scale up stage. They can be different teams or drastically different processes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And it's probably one of the things that I've learned in a way that's meaningful, in a way that I sort of understood. I knew the words before I started. I now understand the words. And and you've given me an open goal, by the way, to praise Sir Alex Ferguson in a second.
Here to help.
So the people that you need, what's the quip? It's, just hire great people. Like, cool. I have no money. I have no customers. I don't actually have a business model. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm pretty sure that I can't hire Bill Gates to come and work for me. So you need different people at different stages. And broadly, I would say that the early stage, you need generalists who can do a bit of everything. And as you get more mature, you need specialists who understand their function very well. And what this means is that you're constantly evolving, deliberately or otherwise. Sometimes it happens to you. You have to keep evolving the team around you. So in the early days, you as the founder need to understand everything about everything and kind of synthesize that together. You have a small team of 4 to 10 people. You kind of need to take all of the information from everyone simultaneously, whether that's data or a customer said this thing to me, by the way, and somebody external says, here's my insight about whatever. You synthesize it all together to make the thing work. Once it kind of works conceptually, once customers buy it, suppliers sell it, once the model's broadly working, you suddenly start to need specialists, people who understand how to scale a customer service function, people who understand how to build technology. You need fewer and fewer of these generalists. And of course, but the generalists have all the magic. They understand everything about everything, and they can do all the interesting, innovative stuff. The specialists are a lot more siloed, and you start to lose some of the magic. And that transition is really difficult. And I would say that we've done a perfectly average job of it. I'm not sure anybody does much better than perfectly average. And I think as a single founder, as a single girl running a business, that's difficult because you realize that you yourself and everyone around you might not make the whole journey. I think you start with an assumption that you're going to get your band of merry men and you're going to, go
all the way to the top.
Yeah. And actually, you need to critically assess yourself, which is, again, I'm perfectly average at doing so, but I'm trying. But critically assess everybody else, which is, of course, much easier, frankly, and figure out who do I need in the next 18 months. In the early days, it's who do I need next month? But now it's who do I need for the next 2 years? And at some point, it's who do we need for the next 5 years? And that's really hard, I think, kind of there's a sort of personal, that moment where I kind of realized that you have to keep rebuilding the team. And that's actually like a part of the job.
Yeah.
It was that sort of realization. It's a bit brutal, if I'm honest. I think it's what businesses need.
Yeah. And that's really useful, even for me and the people that watch the show, because I think we're going through that transition.
Yeah.
We've been going since 2014, actually, from zero. We're a 7-figure business now, and we're starting to grow. And to continue that growth, I think we need more siloed people, professional, because at the moment, if something goes wrong, anyone will pick it up. And there's a little bit of a crossover there between sometimes what people do within the business, which can cause confusion internally. It can cause mixed messages with customers. Yeah. So I think, it's interesting you discuss that.
All sounds very familiar.
Yeah, we're heading along that line.
How are you making that transition?
I don't know the answer. Is probably still the honest answer, Avin, because we're a family-based business. Me, dad, brother, mum's also. So we're family business. So we've got that dynamic to add to it, which has its pluses and negatives. Yeah. And it's like, right, we're growing. Now we need to structure things more. So who's doing the sales and business development? Because at the moment, that's me. Yeah. Like if I'm getting dragged into operations, which happens occasionally, the business development piece seems to go up and down. So we need, someone that's now dealing with back of house stuff and dealing with customers and that customer service piece. Yeah. We need someone dealing with sales, solely dealing with that. someone operationally minded. And we're trying to get our ducks in a row now to do that, to enable us to scale. That's what we need to do.
And it's just, you could sort of hear it almost, it's like, great, let's bring in all these brilliant people who understand sales or technology or whatever it might be. You're like, hey, but these guys aren't as good as the guys we had. Then you're like, and it's really difficult, that transition. I think a 50% hit rate of getting it right is pretty good overall. And this, by the way, is why Sir Alex Ferguson, why he's better than any other manager, in my personal opinion.
Your unbiased opinion.
Unbiased opinion, is he managed to build not just one team, but he built 4 or 5 teams.
Yep.
And look, I guess Manchester United is a growing business, but conceptually rebuild, like, I remember him shipping out Paul Ince and Kanchelskis and people getting, and Mark Hughes and people thinking, this guy's absolutely crazy. But he built and he rebuilt and he rebuilt. And I think I can't think of another manager, including Pep or Mourinho, who's built and rebuilt teams over a long period of time. And I think that's, if you take the football analogy, what Liverpool are suffering with, which I'm very happy about, rebuilding their team, can Klopp do that?
Yeah.
And that's, I just, if you imagine you're him and you're shipping out your best players and you're, in that case, betting on youth multiple times, like that's scary thing to do. Would you do that? Would you ship out your,
that's
your half your management team? I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure you would, right? And I just think that's a kind of interesting lesson, and hence, anyway, another pitch for Man United.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'd say it's good to get a different view on that. So I ask all people that come, because, especially with social media nowadays, entrepreneurship, business owner, it can be glamorized.
Yeah.
So walk in a park, you're going to be a millionaire, you're going to be doing X, Y, Z. What's been, during your journey with Housekeep, what's been one of the toughest moments that you've had as a business?
Yeah. I'll give you a specific answer, and I'll perhaps give you a slightly more philosophical answer. Toughest bit, during COVID, we went from, we lost 80% of our clean volume in 10 days. You could refresh the page and the volumes were going down. And it was like, what on earth is going on? That was very scary. We raised £1 million back in 2014. At this point, we had a few hundred grand in the bank. We'd been sort of break even for a few years. Business was, in cash terms, the amount of cash going in and out of the business was a lot more than a couple hundred grand that we had spare in the bank account. That was pretty scary. And I didn't know, I didn't actually think we'd be able to survive that. We did.
I think there was a common misconception with that, if I may, that cleaning, there's a virus going around. Oh, you must have been crazy busy. Even us, and I've said this a few times on the podcast, the polar opposite. Because we do a lot of commercial work with slightly different sectors.
They're all closed.
They're closed. If no one's in the office, they don't need cleaning. And then you've got the issue of, well, do I continue, because they're contracted, do I continue charging them? But then when you come back from COVID, you're probably going to have a retention issue with customers because you haven't really helped them out in a sticky situation. So we had that. And I say, the perception, well, you're a cleaner, it must have been manic. Total opposite.
I mean, I sometimes don't bother correcting people. I'm like, I just don't want to open that. I just don't want to think about it. I'm like, sure, it was great. It was amazing. Great. So that's the specific answer. I think the more philosophical answer is that building a business just takes a long time and it's a bit relentless, and you have to be inherently, I think, a bit relentless to just. So the thing that's difficult about it is either things are not going well and you need to fix them, or things aren't going well. Things are going well, and then your jobs effectively change. You have to be thinking about the team. You have to be thinking about the future, and almost always you're solving things in the rearview mirror rather than looking forward. And I'm desperately trying to get better at looking forward rather than solving yesterday's problem or tomorrow's problem, solving the 18-month problem. But it's harder than it looks. And I think that's the hardest thing about it is just that it's always, even when you build a great team, even if you build a really, really good team, kind of exacerbates the problem because all that's left on your desk is the really thorny problems that nobody else has solved. So it's kind of like stones are sort of running uphill to you a bit. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but I think the glamorized Elon Musk is obviously a very talented guy, but not many people are Elon Musk. Most are people who just get on with it and build a business. And I think glamorizing being a founder and entrepreneur, I think it's a bit of a, I can understand how it's happened, but it feels like a bit of a mistake. Like almost nobody, by definition, no one's Elon Musk, right? Apart from Elon Musk. And, so you're not going to be him. And most people actually build successful businesses. Just sounds like you and your family get their head down and they do some work and, they build a good business. They don't go on Bloomberg and TechCrunch and, they just get on with building a good business. And I think we could do with a bit more of that and a bit less of the look at me, I raise some money or whatever it might be.
I suppose these people are an exception, not the rule. Day to day running a business, as you alluded to, is super hard. When you think you've got it going straight, someone will gladly put something else on your desk to deal with. So it is tough. You said you always had that, always wanted to start a business. Is that a choice you're happy with, or do you wish you stayed the other side of the fence?
Well,
because I know you're fortunate enough to do a bit of both, I guess.
Yes, I certainly don't regret it. I suspect if I'd understood quite how hard it is, I might have taken a slightly different view. But I think you have to, you've got to look. The data says that your chances of success are basically zero. Right? So you've got to be a bit crazy to start a business, right? Because you've got to say, despite the fact that the data says this, I believe that I'm in the 0.1%, not in the 99.9%. So you've got to be a bit crazy. You've got to be a bit thoughtless. You've got to be a bit like, whatever, I'm special, so I think you've got to have a bit of that about you. And I think all founders, all people who start businesses, they've got to have some ideas, right? Otherwise, why would you start a business? You've got to have an idea to start something. You've probably got to have a bit of a salesman in you somewhere, because you've got to sell something to someone one day, whether it's a domestic cleaning contract, a commercial cleaning contract, you're selling something to someone. And so no, I don't regret it. I've learned a huge amount, and I suspect there's a even bigger amount still to learn. And I think as you get a little bit older, you do a bit more, some of that, I'm knocking on the door of 40, sadly. And some of that urgency, some of that desire to do everything immediately, like sort of all action heroes, dissipates a little bit. And you say, actually, this is interesting conceptually. Like, I like the problems I'm solving. I like the people I'm working with. I like the impact I'm making. And that hankering to, I've got to get everything done tomorrow so that I can sail off on my big yacht in the Mediterranean. You actually
that subsides.
Maybe that's not going to be what matters.
So you touched on about founders and CEOs, and obviously with the investing side of things, what makes a good founder or owner? What's the key skills that you look for?
So very specifically, actually, I think good founders fit businesses or business models, and they are better placed to solve the problems in that industry than anyone else. Doesn't mean that they need to be industry experts. Sure. But that means that they have this level of insight greater than anybody else about whatever the problem might be. And so, and a good signal for that is if they tell you things that are obvious, but you wouldn't think of yourself. So to take a quite specific example, the good thing about cleaning and the bad thing about cleaning is everyone has an opinion about it. You can talk to anyone, you could talk to anybody on the street and ask them about commercial cleaning or domestic cleaning, and they would happily give you some opinions. And so when I was starting to raise some money, almost everybody said to me, "I've got an idea for you. What you should do to go and stand outside Claridge's, and you should go and get the best cleaners from Claridge's, and then you'll have this amazing cleaning service." And that sounds highly plausible. But at this point, I'd already spent about 4 weeks going on jobs with we had two cleaners at this time, Maria and Andrea. And Maria didn't speak great English, but she was a very good cleaner. And Andrea was fine. But I was on all the cleans, and so I'd pick up the bits that were missed. And Maria really hated Andrea, and I wasn't really sure why. And I couldn't really understand what she was saying. And eventually I figured out that what Maria's problem was that Andrea was a hotel cleaner, therefore she should be great. And she was like, the problem is she wipes everything.
Yeah.
She doesn't scrub it. And if you've got a hotel shower screen, a glass shower screen, it's been used once or twice and the lime scale hasn't built up yet. So you can wipe it. But in a domestic home setting, it could be 2 weeks. It could be a long time since it was last cleaned. As a consequence, you have to spray some stuff on, you have to scrub it, then you have to polish it. It's a lot more work. And what she was saying was that hotel cleaners are no good because they can't, I mean, you could probably teach it, but at this point I didn't know this. And so so potential investors would say, oh, you should hire hotel cleaners. Well, actually the issue with hotel cleaners is X. So you can hire hotel cleaners, but only if you implement this bit of training to show them how to do these specific things that they can't do. It's really obvious. And I think founders who deeply understand their industry tend to have a whole load of these obvious things, but that you just couldn't know from the outside. And so, people come up to me and they say, I want to build a business for personal trainers, match up people with personal trainers. It's like Housekeep for personal trainers. And I'm looking for, what do you know that I can't guess? Customers want to get personal trainers. Personal trainers want to get more work. We can help them get more work in a dense local area. And so they can earn more and reduce their travel time. Like, cool. So if that's all you know,
that's nothing new.
Tell me something new that I don't know. Tell me something about personal trainers that I don't know. Tell me something about the way gardeners are books that I don't know. And if you don't have that, I think that says you're at a surface level. You're not deeply embedded. You're not going to be able to solve the 10,000 problems you're going to have to solve in the future. That analogy makes sense.
So a good industry-specific knowledge really helps, within their chosen field. Because everyone comes up with ideas, like you say, or everyone has an opinion these days. And say that deep industry knowledge is something that is a must for any founder. So I asked you about some of the tough times at Housekeep, and obviously COVID is one that comes up regularly because it was a tough time. What's been one of the highlights? I imagine there's been many within your journey, as we've done in the intro. But is there any particular one that sticks out?
I think the best moments. I'm not a very somebody observed about me, and it's possibly going deeper into my soul than we need to. Somebody observed about me that I spent almost no time talking about the past, and actually very little time talking about the future. I spend almost all my time talking about the immediate here and now. And I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest.
I would agree.
So I spend almost no time, I think, to a fault, celebrating what we did in the past. I kind of don't care. I'm like, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? I don't spend too much time worrying about what we're doing 2 to 5 years. I think I should spend more time worrying about it or thinking about it. And the use of that word is also a look. I said the word worry about the future rather than thinking about all the wonderful things we could do. It's kind of how my mind works, right? What problems do I need to solve, as opposed to what foundations could be built? And so, the best bits, don't know. I've moved on.
That's interesting.
But the bits that, if I do stand back from it, the bits that I think I enjoyed that day are when people do remarkable things. And it's when the team out there come up with things that I'm like, oh, that's really smart. That's really good. That's a really good idea. And then they implement it, they do it. And then, because then Housekeep feels like not just a bunch of actions that are being done by others that I've sort of come up with. It feels like a sort of organic thing, its own living and breathing. It's a thing unto itself as opposed to an extension of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting because, some people, they'll have a win and they'll dine out on it for the rest of their life. If we go back to sport, I was captain of the football team when I was at school. They're telling that story when they're 40. And it's interesting you say that about, the wins, you acknowledge them, but you move on pretty quickly, because some of our biggest wins, I remember I thought, when I reached 7 figures, I've made it.
I've done
it. And I remember the specific moment we done that. We had a large tender that we was going through, and that tipped us over the 7 figures in revenue. And the next day, it's gone. The excitement was gone, and we were back to business as usual, back in the trenches. Right, what can we do now? So that's an interesting comment.
We had the same, about 1,000 cleans in a day. Then we did it, and it was like, cool. No,
What's
let's
next?
do more. No, it's very, very
Shortly.
similar. Yeah.
And I suppose that goes back, as cliche as it sounds, I suppose it's more the journey than, a destination, should we say. So Housekeep, I've noticed now, obviously you started in the domestic field.
Yeah.
Was there, I know on your website from, again, doing some research, that there is a commercial offering and other building or property service related. Can you tell us a little bit about that? When did that come in?
Yeah, so commercial, we've actually always done a little bit of commercial work here or there.
Okay.
And broadly, there's some, think of a business like Housekeep. Housekeep needs to make a purchasing decision. They need to get a cleaner. They purchase in a pretty similar way.
I know a really good cleaning company if you're looking for a commercial.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's small office type locations, 10 to 50 people tend to Google cleaner. They find us. They sort of, so we do a bit of that kind of work. It's not a particularly big portion of what we do. We think there's an opportunity there in small commercial premises. We'd be nowhere at all well placed to do the kind of work you guys do, bigger contracts and so on. But kind of basically something that's purchased in the same way as home cleaning, but it's small premises, a little bit that small. I think though, where we think there's a really relevant opportunity for us is that the original view was always home services is really interesting. More generally, home services is a 40 billion market, very fragmented, varies a little bit. Things like pest control are less fragmented, but things like plumbers, electricians, and handy persons, pretty fragmented, just like cleaning. And we think there's an opportunity in these adjacent markets. And we think that and we have begun to find out that our customer base, if we can deliver them a good service in the core cleaning business, will trust us to come and buy other home services from us. They need a picture hung on the wall. Could they get a handyman from Housekeep? Do they need an electrician, plumbing job? Again, not all of it. Look, if your pipe bursts, is Housekeep an obvious place to go to? Probably not. But if you know that you need some work done, you need an EICR certificate, you need an energy performance certificate in the next couple of weeks, does that feel like kind of thing Housekeep could do? Yeah, it does. And so we think there's an opportunity to kind of own the home. This is in the 0.0001% chance of success bucket. We have to be realistic. Everyone has tried to own the home, from Google to Amazon to Tesco to John Lewis. No one's managed it. So I'd be very surprised if we managed it. But we think we've got a good start there. And we think there's an opportunity for a customer to say, hey, I need something done in my home, mostly today cleaning, but I'll get Housekeep to do that. And we think that involves, to do that, we need to have a really good core service so that people trust us. And we need to build a sort of brand around that, and we need to make Housekeep indispensable to the homeowner of the home.
I think there's two fantastic points here. With the commercial cleaning side of things, we don't take anything under 10 hours a week generally. So that's why not protect 2 hours a day. So there's definitely a scope there for some of that small business. And like you say, one of the easiest ways to grow a business is to upsell or sell additional services, products to a customer that you've already got a relationship with. So like you say, if they've got some planned maintenance in their house that they've got coming in, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And that hopefully they kind of run both ways, because they think, actually my plumber was good. I don't have a clean right now, but actually when I do want to clean, I'll come back to Housekeep. Yeah. And hopefully that creates this nice circle of we're the default place to go to. Like I say, look at it, we need to be realistic. Lots of people tried to do it. Lots of people have failed. Yeah. So our chance of success by definition must be really slim, but we think we've got some really nice starting points for a really big goal on the other side.
Okay. What's in the future for Housekeep? What's your, as well, was a double barrel question here. Yeah. So what's in the future for Housekeep, and what are your desires? Some people set up business to exit further on, they continue it with growth.
So I guess on a personal level, what do I care about? I care about learning. Am I better conceptually at stuff? If that's what a CEO does, we do stuff. This is a job description. Am I better at stuff this month than last month, this year than last year? I care about solving difficult problems. It's a bit weird to say that. But there are probably, frankly, easier ways to make money than trying to scale a business. So I kind of care about trying to do things that are hard, not easy. I regret that quite a lot. And then, of course, work that makes a positive impact. Do we... we recently put up a screen here with all unfiltered reviews.
I'll see that as I come in.
Yeah, and there's every now and then a really bad one. And it's like, are we going to solve that or not? Are we going to make sure that doesn't happen again or not? And to me, it's really important that we keep trying to get better, deliver a better service and make a positive impact on customers' lives, but even more importantly on cleaners' lives. You said earlier, I think cleaning isn't the most glamorous industry in the world. But every cleaner I've ever met cares about their work. They're like normal people, right? They care about doing a good job. They care about the customers. Of course, they want to get paid, but they genuinely care about their work. And if we can make their lives better, what's a difficult industry? Cleaners are never going to earn £200,000 a year. If we can make their lives better, that's good. So that's kind of what I care about, and that gives me the motivation to come to work tomorrow and the next day. And if those things aren't ever true, I would not want to come to work anymore, and I should personally exit or sell the business. I guess what that means for Housekeep is we're the biggest in domestic cleaning in London. That's nice, sure. But can we do that in other services and other locations? Yep. So mentioned plumbers, handymen, electricians, gardeners. Could we do that in London? But then could we take the London model and take it to, we've actually opened up a few other places, Brighton, St Albans.
Franchises, Avin?
All in-house, actually.
Okay.
I'll confess, we do, I don't know a huge amount about franchising. It feels like an obvious way to do it. So perhaps you could educate me at some point. But we'd be doing it from head office. And, could we take the model and run it elsewhere? We'll definitely encounter some problems with that. Different demographics, different density is probably important. So that, where do we want to get to? From cleaning in London to every service in every home in the UK over the next 5 years or so.
Fantastic. So obviously that's Housekeep. I'm going to just a couple of personal questions for yourself now. Obviously, I know I mentioned at my intro as well that you do a lot of investing outside of Housekeep.
Yeah.
Is there what's the reason behind that? Obviously, the simple answer is, well, hopefully it'll give you an ROI. I'm not really interested in that. What do you gain out doing that? What do you enjoy about doing the investing outside of Housekeep?
Yeah. So, the way that started was, as I said, I used to be a private equity investor, sort of 5 to 15 million checks, businesses doing single-digit millions of revenue, growing at a good rate. And there were often things that were just too early stage for us, but I thought were very interesting and ended up investing personally instead. So that's how that started. Why do I do it today? To be honest, it's very similar to the reasons that I kind of go to work. Like I just, I just like talking about businesses.
Yeah.
I like solving problems, and so I like helping businesses scale, where I can share a bit of experience, where I've seen some stuff and I can share that back. I like working with people. I find it interesting the other way. I get learnings from, I was on the board of a business who did 2 rebrands in 2 years. And I was like, we spent 99 quid on a logo 7 years ago. Should we do a rebrand? It's been transformational for us. So you learn stuff the other way around. So all the same reasons: learning, challenge, work with good people, growing, figuring new things out. Is all the same reasons, really.
So back end of last year, you become an MBE. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Real achievement. Can you just, for my own personal benefit, I'm sure people at home will want to know, how does that come about? What's the process about, and what does that involve?
Yeah, I have.
You said you were shocked when we was off camera.
So, so I used to live around the corner. That's why the office is here. I've moved a little bit away now. And there's a a concierge in the flat who's been there, longer than I was, so 15, 20 years. And he sent me a picture of a letter. It's, Avin Rabheru Esquire with the Cabinet Office logo on it. And I was like, I'm either getting some sort of award or I'm going to be arrested.
MI5 are on to
Yeah. And I was like, well, they're very unlikely. It was Friday afternoon, the previous Christmas, almost exactly a year before I actually collected the MBE. And it's very unlikely they'd send a letter. They're arresting me.
Just give you a bit of notice to leave the country.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what is going on? So I sort of went around the corner and I'd not seen Thomas, our porter, in a month or two because we'd moved. And, I used to see him every day for 15 years. I lived in that block. And so Thomas is telling me all the things about his kids and asking about my kids. I'm like, give me the bloody letter. Like, what's in this letter? I'm trying to open it without being rude. And so then I opened it. And the first thing you see is underlined is the word, the letters MBE. It's like, I've got an MBE, this is cool. But then you read it, and of course it's written in the way that these things, I guess, get written. So it says, Dear Mr. Rabheru, I'm writing to inform you on behalf of Her Majesty's government that the Right Honourable Prime Minister Boris will be putting your name forward as a recommendation for MBE underlined, in line for the future, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, have I actually got it? Or is this just saying consideration?
Yeah.
Is everyone considered for it? So
I haven't got one, just in case.
So then I had to come back into the office quietly, and then I had to Google the letter. And it's like, okay, this is the letter people get if they're definitely getting one. And well, now what do I do about it? So I was about as shocked as one can be, I suppose. I think what happened behind the scenes is when the government was working on COVID response, we did some work around helping write the working in homes guidance, how to work safely in homes. In fact, we wrote it for our customers, and I think the government borrowed it, is the technical term. And I think as a consequence, the Department for Business were looking for people to nominate. And I guess I ticked some of the other boxes that they were looking for. And I think that it either happened like that or some puncher on the street nominated me. So I don't know, actually. So I know about as much as you do. But that's
Did you ever find out who actually nominated you?
No. I'm assuming it was it fits with a couple of emails that came into the office around mid-year. So that would make sense. Otherwise, it really is just could have been my wife or maybe my
great job you did. Does that change much for you, or is it just,
It really is nice, I have to say.
To be recognised at that level must be.
It really is.
It's great achievement.
Yeah. It doesn't look. We're talking whatever. I don't care about that now. I want something else, and it doesn't fundamentally change anything. I think it is nice to be recognised, and I think, look, I've been very fortunate. I've grew up in a sort of pretty standard middle class life. I've been good school, good university. But I'm a kid from Manchester, where Indian kids from Manchester don't really get MBEs. Sure. There's a kind of my best mate sort of put it along the sort of following lines. He was like, I didn't even know that this was sort of on the menu of options. Yeah. And it's a bit like that. It's just like, oh, I didn't even know that this was a thing that could happen. And I think it's nice for, that's where I came from. I came from a place where people don't think about getting MBEs and they don't get MBEs. And I think it's nice for everyone I grew up with. It's nice for people who've been around. It's nice for everyone in the office who's worked really hard to build a business. It's nice. And I think I'll gratefully accept this rather than try to be too humble about it.
Sure. I think. No, congratulations again.
Thank you.
So, one other thing we always do with guests, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If retrospectively, if you could message yourself, your younger version of yourself, what would be the number one thing that you told a younger version of yourself when you're starting your entrepreneurship journey? Tough question.
Yeah. I think my life's been pretty good. I think it's been fine. I don't regret too much, really, if I'm honest. I think the thing I would try to do is enjoy take a bit longer to just enjoy and appreciate the moments there and then.
Yep.
And I just, the way I'm wired is I'm always wondering about what can I do next? What's next? And there have been, I was sort of slightly surprised at your readout at the start. I was like, oh, that was good, or that was good, or that time was good, or that time was good. And I was always thinking, cool, I want the next thing, or I want, I don't care about that. I want growth, or I want this, or I want, and I think I probably could have spent a bit longer along the way pausing and enjoying it. And I think all founders believe it's a sprint, 3 years and I'm going to be Elon Musk and, on Mars or whatever it might be. It's not how it is for most successful founders. And I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. And as a consequence, you've got to take breaks and stop for a drink of water at a chocolate bar, and celebrate some of the things that go well. Yeah. So I think that would probably be the thing I would recommend to my younger self, and possibly also to my current self. And
just enjoy some of those wins for a little bit more. Don't dwell on them.
And I can tell you, there's almost no chance I'll do it. Of course, it's not what I'm like. But that would be the recommendation I'd give with hindsight.
Okay, yeah. Well, that wraps up everything that I wanted to chat to Avin about today. Thank you for coming on. I felt the conversation was really easy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Some great points to take away. Where can the viewers find you on social media, if you are on social media, and obviously housekeep.com? Yeah,
absolutely. So Housekeep, if you need a cleaner or tradesperson, one day a small commercial premise is cleaned, then definitely come to housekeep.com. You can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Avin Rabheru, or Twitter, same, Avin Rabheru, and Housekeep's also on all the social channels too.
Great. Thank you again. As always, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be back in the next couple of weeks for another guest.